Hi, my name is Evelyn Sun. My husband and I have been living here in China for the past 20 plus years. When Liana approached us to share the life with being away from elderly parents, I just thought, yes, we are in this season that we need to think about it. And Gary and I have been talking about um, these issues often, and there are definitely some sacrifices needs to make. And then, yeah, we love to be here to share our experience. As you can tell, I am in my quarantine hotel. This has been my sixth quarantine. Yeah, and anytime before, making the commitment seems easy. And then all we have to do is pick some time, jump on the flight, and we're there. But with this pandemic and plus quarantine and plus border close, and definitely adding up more challenges. This time around, I haven't been home for over 3 months. So I haven't seen my home and my husband for over 3 months. I believe he's physically there with you guys. So, hi, husband. We are blessed to be able to get another, what is that called? It's that Taiwan citizen but residence in China. I remember the first time last spring, we just came back from a Chinese New Year from Taiwan, and the border was closed, meaning all foreigners, once you leave the country, you are no longer allowed to come back. We know that everything was shaking, everything was unexpected and uncertain. But that was also at the same time, my father's health situation was very unstable. His blood pressure and heart rate were scarily, it was like a roller coaster. So I was weighing myself, I know that maybe once we were also holding US passport. So we're weighing the consequences. I know that once I leave, there are possibility that I won't be able to come home. And then on the other side, do I want to miss out? Like if my father's passing, I won't be able to be there. Do I want to let this stop me just because of that? It was very hard. Of course, that it was it was a big relief later on knowing that I could apply another ID to come back in. But I also understand that not people from all over the country, not everybody has that privilege be able to apply that. So that makes it very hard, I think, emotionally. And so there are other ways during the time that we're unable to travel. Gary will call his mom. I think WeChat still works. WeChat's still a good tool. I think it doesn't have to be long, but just call them and say hello and chit-chatting about your daily life. I think that also helps. My mother is super good at using WeChats and sharing information. And so I guess, like even sometimes you are sending out a video and sharing with them what you've been doing. And then the fun thing, and she will share the video, and she's super good. She will share the dish that they're eating, or maybe they're out for a walk, or sometimes they will just all kinds, sometimes a voice message or text message. WeChat becoming our major tool to communicate. So here's the thing. If your parents doesn't have a smartphone, get them one. And if they say, I don't know how to use it, I don't need a cell phone, I don't know how to use this modern technology, don't buy that. Keep reaching out to them. Don't let these excuses stop you from reaching out to them, because, well, Gary could share with you later on how many years we have been trying to convince his mom to first was to get a smartphone, to get her a smartphone, and then second is to teach her how to get on WeChat, WhatsApp, and Line right now, and how much she enjoys doing that right now. And even during my quarantine, that she will call me today. She say, "What are you doing? Show me your painting." And my mom would call me when I first arrived. She said, "Let me know if you pass the green light. If you have that green light to getting." I was so anxious to find out, and I want to know. Please let me know. And all these are very timely communication that really help them to feel connected. That brings a lot of joy in them. So I would say use that, and don't let their insecure excuses stop you from doing this. My father, on the other hand, he's not a man with many words. So each time I call, it's hard to carry conversation with him. He always say, "Here's your mother," or "Your mother is not home." I say, I can talk to you. But in one of my last time I visited, he really enjoyed doing the oil painting. And last time when I visited, I realized I found out he started to do the Chinese painting. So as he laid out everything, I said, I want to do something with you. So I started to put out some of the paintbrush, and then I started to sit next to him. Then we're starting to do the same thing together. Surprisingly, that I found out I really enjoying it. And last quarantine, I signed up for some classes, and I just continue to do the Chinese painting. So the way we communicate has been that every time I painted something, I would take a picture and show my mom, say, "Can you show that?" So it has been our way of communicating. And somehow it became a motivation for both of us to keep drawing. Both Gary and I have not grown up with family practicing Christian value. Therefore, after we become Christian, our parents, and as our parents are getting older and they're weak and lonely, I think it has been on our heart. We are burdened for not only their salvation, but the life anchor, being able to anchor in Jesus and anchor in that certainty that brings joy and the sense of peace. That is what we really wish that they could have. It have a tradition to celebrate Christmas, and that for many years, even after we left home, we came back for Christmas, and this is the time that family gathering, and we will always gather around the table. Say grace, at least. It has been intimidating because when they were uncomfortable, I remember my father would squeeze my hand. It's like, "Speed up, make it short." So it became, sometimes I will blank out and feeling intimidated. And there are many times I've been trying to share the faith, and then he will read the Bible and find out question to challenge me. So there are many times I've been feeling like a failure. I could not achieve anything. Just keep praying for them. In 2000, I believe it was 2005. We just moved from Beijing to Shanghai. My mother called. My father was in the hospital. And they found out in his liver there were different spots of cancer cell, and they could not even do, because there are too many, they could not even do any surgery. And right on that spot, it seems like there's no more hope and there's no way out. I know that my mother was in shock. It was too much. I know my mother was devastated. It was too much for her to carry this all by herself. So I was so thankful that one of my very dear friend, very dear sister in Beijing, she I was talking to her on the phone, and she until past midnight, and then she called me first thing in the morning. She said, "Go get your ticket. Go." And I'm flying on the first flight to, oh, yeah, I think I cannot not choke up thinking about this. She took the first flight to Shanghai to stay with my children, and for me to be able to go home with my family. Back then, we didn't have to do quarantine, so I packed very light just to plan on the 4-day trip. When I showed up in the hospital, my father cried. Both my parents cried. And I stayed there. I stayed there overnight for those few days. I just committed. I didn't go anywhere else besides that hotel room. So he just had one treatment, and he has to stay there for not moving. They have to put a very heavy sandbag on top of the place where he had surgery. He has to lay there not moving for 6 hours. So what do you do with that 6 hours? And he was wide awake. So I asked him, has anybody presented a full gospel to you ever? He said, growing up, no, I don't have many Christian around me, nor have any chance to really hear about it. I say, do you mind if I I say, you don't have to make any decision, do you? But do you mind if I just share at least the whole concept to you, and what we believe in? He said, okay. And then I say, by all means, please feel free to stop me anytime. And please feel free to ask me any question. You can challenge me, you can do anything. I say, this is not it's not a full presentation. I want this to be conversational. Would that be okay? He goes, okay. We stopped and we talked. I think we have never been so intentional conversation, I would say, for on and off for 6 hours, full 6 hours. And he would stop me from asking question. And I set up my mind that I would not make him believe, because I think over all these years, I learned from my mistake. You cannot make a person believe in Jesus unless the Holy Spirit works in that person's heart. And you only present the content of the gospel. And then it is Jesus' job to make him believe. You cannot make anybody believe in something. The conversation went on for a good 6 hours, and the whole time he was really focusing and really listening. And of course, at the end, I offered him, I said, would you like to accept this free gift? He goes, I am very touched. And then I realized this military guy thing in his heart is starting to cause him to back away. He said, people usually, when they're desperate, they want anything that offered. But I don't want to make decision when I am weak and desperate. I want to make decision when I am clear. I go, sure, no problem. I said, you don't have to do it in front of me, and you don't, chew on it. And because I think I have already set my mind on, say, you need to hear it out, and then you process in your heart, and that's okay. Fast forward, I think a few years later, he was in the hospital again, and this time was my brother visited. One day he called, and he was crying, and he said, Daddy accepted Jesus, and he led him to Christ. Would I have a little slight disappointment? I wish it could have been me. But I know this is even more meaningful, like the twofold meaning. This probably the first ever that he was able to lead someone to Christ, and that was his father, and how much more meaningful for him and for my father too. And I just I cannot stop praising God. And of course, fast forward over all these years, my father wrote his biography, memory book, and he always not too sure whether he's really Christian. He couldn't define himself. He didn't know how to define himself as Christian. Recently, my uncle passed away. But he said something that made me, I think just brought a lot of comfort, a lot of certainty, even though that he seldom talk about faith and seldom talk about these things. But in my uncle's funeral, he said to my cousin that came from the States to be sent out his father. He said, and we have a small service in the funeral home. And he said one comment that he said to my cousin, he said, Ben, the best thing and the best gift that you have given to your father is his salvation. I'm so glad you've done that. So what I really want to say is that we cannot make a person believe in Jesus, but the Jesus living in us that help us to love. Because I always believe that this person that you want to share or minister, they don't care what you have to say unless they know you really care about them. So keep loving them, keep visiting them and talk to them. And Jesus' love will flow out from your life that caused them to want to know more.